Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm John Lincove.
I'm Ryan Pizlakowski.
I'm Emily Thomas.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the 2024 Lincoln Nautilus SUV. It's basically a luxury version of the Ford Edge SUV, which is being discontinued, by the way, at the end of this model year. So the Lincoln Nautilus that we bought is an all-wheel drive reserve trim, and it's powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder hybrid engine with a continuously variable transmission, and the powertrain makes 310 horsepower. Base price $54,750, and we added one option package, bringing it up to the Reserve 2 level for $5,775. So that brings BlueCruise hands-free driving for 4 years. We'll talk about why the 4 years is important a little bit down the road. Hands-free liftgate, panoramic roof, 14-speaker audio system, and heated second-row seats. We added white paint for $750. Interestingly enough, the hybrid engine was a $1,500 additional option, so that's not part of the package, or it was just a very interesting thing I saw on the window sticker. $1,395 for destination, so they're creeping up. Every car we test seems to be higher and higher to get it to us. Total $64,170. We also are going to talk a little bit about a rented version. We rented one from Lincoln with a hired package with a $10,000 option package, and it has the 24-way power seats that Lincoln is very proud of. They have these very, very adjustable seats. So
Very, very.
very, very adjustable. It's not just
24
adjustable,
ways.
very adjustable. But anyway, so Emily, let's talk about your feelings on it first. You were the first one to kind of respond about your feelings on it of the group here. Tell us about it. Tell us your thoughts of driving it, why you didn't want to take it on a trip.
So first day was great. I really, I liked how it drove. It drives pretty smoothly. I love the fuel economy for it. So because of the hybrid engine, right? When you have a full tank of gas, it's like, it shows you on the dash, so your range is around like in the 500s. So that itself was a huge deal for us. It's summertime. We have a bunch of family road trips planned. And my husband saw that, and literally after the first night we were talking, he's like, oh, this would be a good one for you to sign out for us when we have our upcoming road trips. Right. But then,
Plot twist.
plot twist. The next morning, the center screen stopped working. And when I say that it stopped working, it was stuck on like the parking screen, and it would not do anything else.
The center screen. Sorry, the center screen or the whole the big one.
So yeah, why don't you tell?
Yeah,
because there's more than one screen in this.
There is more than one screen. So in the Nautilus,
Sorry to interrupt. It's an important detail.
You need all the details for this movie. So there is this giant panoramic style screen, which I've been affectionately calling the IMAX, and then you have so you don't have your really like your driver
Gauge cluster.
right.
Yeah.
You just have the panoramic screen, and then you have your center screen, which has like your normal infotainment kinds of things, really where you make all of your adjustments.
Right.
So you think of the panoramic almost as like the projector or the extended monitor display of your center screen.
Right.
Because you can't really control what's there, or you were telling me you can send stuff there, but really all of your adjustments have to be made in the center screen.
Right.
Right.
However, if your center screen stops working, as in it froze, you can't adjust anything.
Yeah.
The mothership froze. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So after that, I was like, well, I can't imagine us doing, I have 2 boys, right? 7 and nearly 4, doing a multi-hour road trip
You're saying they're very accommodating people, right? They're
with no audio capabilities. Like, I could not, the panoramic screen telling me your CarPlay is on. To adjust the audio, you use the audio app. You can't get to the audio app if your center screen is frozen.
Wow.
So, I mean, hopefully it's been fixed since then. I went to the dealer and now it's back. If I could rely on the center screen, might be a great option for our family road trip. But if not, we're not doing 5+ hours with no audiobook, podcasts, music, radio, anything.
Yeah, there's something to think about though with a lot of these new cars. We've had this before where the dash just goes out, or where like I was driving a car recently and the actual dash is just all it's a screen.
Yep.
And it just went off on me while I'm driving, and it's like, well, this is a problem, but
sure.
there's no analog gauges anymore for some of that
Right.
stuff. So it's and if
You get pulled over, you're
if
like,
it- if it can-
officer, I really don't know how fast I'm going.
right? Actually, that's a good excuse. No, but if you lose that, like and that controls everything. That's a big problem.
Well, and some of them you can't always look. There always is going to be a reset, but it's not always very evident where it is. You sometimes cannot do it if you're driving, and it's something that's key while you're driving. It's one thing if you're parked and you're like, oh, okay, I'll
It's
pull over the side.
distracting.
It's distracting. I mean, I know with the Chevy Blazer EV we had, there's a button to reset it, but that didn't work. So then what? What happens when it does? When it just turns it on and
The
off?
center screen here has there's no home button. Right. They're under the center stack. There's a series of like physical buttons. None of them are a home menu button. So I kept, and you're right, it's entirely distracting. I had a 40-minute commute. The entire commute, I'm trying to figure out how do I get anything back?
Right.
Right. And I'm on the highway. I don't want to pull over on the side of the highway to like figure this out and like restart the car. So finally, when I get off at our exit, I pull over in the park and ride. I do restart the car. Nothing. It's still frozen. In order to restart it, Mike Crossan, right, our technician, he had to unplug the battery
Oh wow,
and restart the vehicle.
a hard reset.
Yeah, it was a hard reset but even then it was still a little challenging because when you looked it up online, the button to reset the center screen is in the center screen options. So how are you supposed to do these things like a normal person?
Hopefully, this is just an early growing pain.
This is why we say don't buy the first car, the first year in a generation, right?
It is. It totally is. I mean, it's let us be the guinea pigs, but in the sense of still, you do want to know. So we do want people to buy it, but we don't want people to buy it. But we do want the data on it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be clear, that could have been one of the reasons we brought back to the dealer because with new cars, there's all kinds of stuff. Sometimes something wasn't delivered with the vehicle, or could have been just to check on the screen. I mean, once you unhook the battery and do that, that's kind of severe. So, we still are testing it. So, we'll see how it goes if it happens again, or if maybe that rectified the situation.
One-time glitch when I had it.
We could hope. We could hope it was just you, just user error. No, I'm joking. I'm totally
Personal
joking.
problem.
No. So before we get to we go back to you, Emily, I want to say, like, Ryan, what did you think since we touched on the IMAX TM screen? Not an IMAX screen technically. What did you think of it? Because give us a little bit of explanation of what it is, because it is kind of like the first time we've seen in concept cars, the screen will be across the car and you will just drive with your eyes. Like, what does this do?
Well, this screen literally goes from like mirror to mirror, like wall to wall. And it's, it's maybe, I don't know, it's maybe 5-6 inches tall.
Yeah.
So it's, it's kind of, but it's curved, which is kind of nice for viewing purposes, right? And it's got all the radio, it's got all kinds of stuff on it, and it's, at first I thought maybe like some of the stuff would be kind of far away because it's goes across the whole entire car,
Yeah,
but it's actually quite easy
right?
to see all this stuff. I thought I was kind of impressed with that. But to your point earlier, like you have to control a lot of these things through that center screen, and it takes it's a learning curve. It's another distraction on one of these cars, right? Yeah. However, I think it's kind of a cool idea. I think it's neat, and I think it does serve some fair purpose, for the entertainment value and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it's catchy. I mean, it goes across the entire dash. I mean, literally, it's not I mean, a lot of these, some of the newer Mercedes have like that screen that kind of goes all the way, but this is one continuous screen.
Well, it's two screen. There is a small seam.
Well, but it's
looks
almost seamless, really.
It's
yeah.
joined. Yeah. It is interesting you bring up the Mercedes ones, because the Mercedes ones and even Chrysler with the Jeep product.
Right, you can turn it on and off on the right side.
It's for the passenger, but the driver can't see it.
Yeah,
and the play stuff.
Right.
Maybe not. This is something for the driver to see all the way across.
Sure.
What do you both think about the usefulness of it? I mean, I get it. It's the first implementation. Maybe that's baby steps. I will seed the conversation by saying I think it's utterly useless. I think there is so little. I think there's so little value to it the way it's executed right now.
Okay.
You guys go, and then I'll tell you why I'm right.
I didn't mind it again when everything was functional.
Yeah.
Right, I didn't mind it because of like the curved panoramic view to it. I almost felt like I had picked the wrong seat in the theater, like in the driver's spot. Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's actually it.
You're on the aisle, and everything was going on in the far side.
like I felt like the driver should be more in the center so that you really get that dead-on view of this panoramic screen, and your periphery is catching the wide edges really well, and that would have been ideal. But of course, we don't sorry. Of course, we don't have our driving seating position in the front center. So
Except for that McLaren once decades ago, we don't have that.
right. So like it felt like it could be really good. It just isn't optimal for the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I did not try to play with, projecting things up there. The thing that was, even just reading through the logbook notes from different people who've driven it, it kind of triggered for me the memory that, like, yes, it was a little bit easier when, so the steering wheel, I know we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, bring it up. Let's go.
The steering wheel controls don't have any labels on them.
Yep.
So you just see buttons, but you don't know what they're for yet. You have to like tap them or you have to touch them. And then on your panoramic screen, it tells you like,
Hopefully.
it
takes a second sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Which is annoying.
There's
Very
a lag.
annoying. Yes.
But it then tells you, what the button is for. Now, if you had a traditional cluster and it was doing that, right, you would still have your eyes a bit more downward.
Right.
But because the panoramic screen is up a little bit more and closer to like eyes, your line of sight, that part was a little bit helpful. That like I'm still seeing the road, I'm still able to process what the steering wheel controls are, labeled as, and in making my decisions. So that part I liked. I didn't mind that.
So like unlike the Lexus RXs, or a lot of the new Lexuses, but specifically, easy for me to say, the hybrid, RX hybrid we have, which has those same types of things. Unlabeled controls, they change function, you touch it. That goes into the heads-up display. So it keeps your eyes up. This is a little lower, but still not as low as traditional is what you're...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like one way better than the other?
I think I like the panoramic screen because sometimes with the heads-up display, partially because of my seating position, I don't always get the best view.
Sure.
It like sometimes the glare just hits the heads up in a weird way, or if I'm wearing my sunglasses, I can't see it that well. So I did like that, at least on the panoramic screen, it's a screen that's physically in the car, and like I'm guaranteed to see it.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So that's the only, like, that's a benefit that I would find personally, even when I'm, playing with my seat adjustments, I can still see it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Ryan, the steering wheel and the screen, because tell us what's up with the wheel.
This is where I run into some issues because the screen, I think the screen's at a decent height, like you mentioned, because it's up a little higher than maybe your dash cluster would be. But this forces the steering wheel down, and then the steering wheel's not round in a way, so that drives me absolutely insane. But we'll get there in a second. But I want buttons on the steering wheel that are just labeled that I can remember. Like the traditional car. Like this is getting too. And going back to like you asked about the screen. Do I like the screen? I think it's cool, but it's just another thing in these cars that we don't like. Just another extra thing that is it really necessary? Probably not. I think they executed it pretty well. I think there's some value to it, but I'm saying this, I guess, out of like my thresholds are really low because I don't need any of this crap. I like simple stuff. Like, but this is if we're gonna do something crazy, like they didn't do so bad here, right?
I want a speedometer, tachometer, and a stick shift. It doesn't have
let me go. Yeah. So considering all that, I think it's okay. But the steering wheel's like not really round, and
No, it's more like an ellipsoid.
Yeah, and it's low. So like I like a steering wheel up a little higher and like kind of close to me. And then I like to be able to have my legs a little longer, more of like a race car style drive.
Full trickle here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm driving, but also the steering wheel needs to be round. I mean, it's a steering wheel. You know what I mean? Like
not a steering aid.
What did we say? There's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Oh, you took my line away.
I saw that in here too.
There is no reason to reinvent the wheel.
But they did, and this has been done before. It's annoying. But when you're in the parking lot, or you're like letting the wheel slide through your hands, it's annoying.
Right.
And,
you kind of.
It's hard to get used to that because it's just not.
Almost like the corners kind of get caught a little bit when you're doing some of those maneuvers.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not. At least it's not the yoke. From Tesla.
Well, that's where I mean, I hate giving it extra credit for that, but yeah, it's not a yoke at least, right? But the buttons on the steering wheel, like when they pop up, sometimes they don't pop up. It takes a second. So that's distracting to me because I'm looking for it now because I can't tell what it was. And then some of them are multi-use depending on what you're doing. Yeah. So you gotta. That's distracting to me. Now I'm looking for it. I don't know.
I think that's a key thing is that if you get to the point where you memorize the steering wheel, because I will say this. Admittedly, we drive
of course, learning
60 to 80 different vehicles a year.
Right.
Sure, there's a learning for us. If you buy it After 6 months, you will memorize it. But when you're driving it, and even if you memorize it and you touch it and it doesn't react, that's when your brain goes, what happened?
Right.
That's when you take
There's extra processing.
Right. So then you take your attention off the road. So it's
Or if
I
they're
get it.
multi-use, how do you memorize all of the different versions?
Sure.
No.
Well, I'd say I get, we complain about Mercedes-Benz. Like you barely touch the thing and all of a sudden, like, you're in a different screen and it's changed the radio. It's like not good. So they're doing it so you don't have the inadvertent swipe. But unfortunately,
there's a lag.
like a hard push doesn't do anything other than activate it. So a touch and a hard push, same. It activates it. It doesn't engage what your choice is.
Right.
Maybe it's just the fact that these are not ready for prime time ever. Instead of, okay, we'll get used to it or we'll work through it. Like, no, just hard button. Just make it one function and we're good.
Yeah,
just,
I agree.
Put some labels on there.
Yeah, right.
Like where it's at.
Yeah.
The other challenge that I had with the steering wheel, because you were saying, right, you have it's kind of low and you have to have it low because it's not round.
Yep.
It's like a circle that got squished on the top and the bottom. And so you have to have it low in order for you to be able to see clearly the screens.
Right.
And that was a little bit challenging for me in order to get like a comfortable driving position. Like I said, my husband loves it. He found it very comfortable for him. It was less comfortable for me. It felt too wide for me. And so I have to move my seat up and forward. The guys make fun of me because when they get in after me, there's no room. But I have to move it a lot. And as a result, like I tend to be too far away from like all of like the padded surfaces that are supposed to make it more comfortable for you when you rest your arms and such. But also because this is so wide for me personally, in order for me to adequately rest my arms, I had to like have them out like this and try to drive.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was either doing like the chicken wing thing, which I didn't love because it was like really awkward and uncomfortable. And my elbow was like just barely getting onto the padded surfaces. So then I adjusted the steering wheel down a bit. And so it was nice and low. And so I had to like kind of rest my arms on my lap. And then it was like T-Rex arms. So I'm like, I'm just down here trying to drive. Mm-hmm. It wasn't great in either way. I mean, it was manageable for a long distance drive. This is where something like having that hands-free BlueCruise, if it works the way you need it to, would be helpful.
Right.
Because I could not hold the wheel comfortably.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to jump to BlueCruise. I wanted to just say, the one thing I found with the big screen is that it's limited in use. There aren't many things you could put up there. The navigation system is the built-in navigation, the native one, which is great. But you have CarPlay, you have Android Auto. Thank you, Ford, for not getting rid of it like General Motors. But you can't put that screen. Yeah. You can't flick that up. So the center screen is low. Yes, you could use audio commands and such. But if you're looking at the screen, you're dropping your eyes very far in comparison to most infotainment screens where you're doing this. It's down to here. And a lot of the real estate's useless. It's a big speedometer and a design. I don't need the 3 hours of weather permanently up on the screen. There's not many useful options.
You're not
up
looking
there.
out the windshield, right? So you don't know the weather.
Right. I thought it was rainy, but then I looked on the screen and it said for the next 3 hours it's rainy. So I'm validated, I guess. I don't know. I get a blue check or something as a weatherman. Again, I'll give it that it's an early thing, but it needs to be more useful up there.
Yeah, the functionality can be improved.
Put the hybrid system up on the screen. Show me if it's in hybrid. Show me if it's driving the front wheel. Show me if it's driving all four wheels. Show me if it's in charge mode. I couldn't figure that out, and others couldn't find how to put that up there. So it's a lot of money. It's a potential of breaking and fixing it down the road out of warranty. Like, I don't want to pay for those screens. Yeah. But so BlueCruise comes standard for 90 days. Then you can add in. So now we have like a in-app purchase with the car where our $5,000 option package gives you 4 years of BlueCruise. Mm-hmm. Ryan, we've driven BlueCruise. We've driven a lot of the systems. Yeah. Just talk a little bit about it, but tell us, how'd you use it? What do you still think of BlueCruise compared to some of the other systems? Do you like it? Do you turn it off because you're still the manual transmission 2-gauge guy?
No, I mean, I've tried it. Driving around here in the back roads of East Haddam and Colchester, you're not using that often, but BlueCruise works well. I mean, it pays attention. Make sure you're paying attention. It keeps you in the lanes pretty well. Doesn't do any ping ponging or whatever term you use for that.
Bouncing, right? Yeah,
the bouncing back and forth in the lanes. It works, and it's a good driver assist. It is not a self-driving feature. It's assist. It helps you. I think it works well. It really does. However, I don't use it to find myself using it that often. I just don't find myself on the highway that often either. Sometimes.
If the car, I'm just going to jump one question. You tow a boat. Sure. I think you tow jet skis too, or
anything that goes on a trailer, I'll pull it.
Have you used these systems with towing?
I haven't. I'm not that brave.
Okay.
I've done some dumb things in my life, but I don't. When I'm towing, I'm paying attention. I don't trust that stuff. I think there's less room for error there. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. I have not experimented with that. So
sure.
I don't know. Maybe that's something we should try on the track. Maybe, but
no, we have. It's not that we have it on this system, but I just kind of wonder your thought on that. Emily, you mentioned us that you said it was kind of Goldilocks on how it would function.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting the system to fully engage into the hands-free mode. And then staying engaged. So it was really frustrating for me because, unlike Ryan, I don't live 10 minutes away. And so I have to use the highway to get home. So most of my commute is the highway, at least a solid 30 minutes. And I very much like to just turn on adaptive cruise control, have my steering assist and my lane keep, and just go forward.
It's a relaxing and takes the stress level down, definitely.
It also helps me maintain speed. And so...
Lead foot, is that what you're saying?
It's gotten better over the years. But the challenge here was that it was hard for me to know, based off of the symbols on the screen, which system was engaged, right? It would show me the lanes, which made me think that I had like the steering assist or the lane keep on, or the lane centering, whichever one it is in this one. But then they would be orange, or then they would be green, or then they would be white, or they'd be blue. I think there was just different colors. I didn't quite know what was happening. And it would then tell me that like the system couldn't engage. And I had no idea why, because, right, like I'm on a highway, I'm on a mapped road. There are very clear lanes.
Right.
My eyes are on the road, my hands are on the wheel. Like I feel like I've done all the prerequisites, and then it would finally turn on and I'd be good for like a straight portion. But of course, because this is Connecticut, everything is like a bunch of curves and like hills. And so we would start going into a curve and it'd be like disengaging. And I'm like, why?
Right.
What are you doing?
And how does this lower your stress levels while driving?
It wasn't. And that was my problem.
See, that's what I just struggle with some of those systems. I like driving. I enjoy driving, right? I want to be in control. That brings my stress level down. Relying on something that I don't fully trust does not add. I'm saying it works. It worked well for me. I didn't have any issues with it. But in general, like I prefer to just drive the darn thing myself. That keeps my stress levels down. But to your point, getting these things to engage sometimes, knowing if it's actually in what mode it's in, like is it actually steering? Is it just adaptive cruise? Blah blah blah.
I didn't even care for having the hands free anymore. Right? Like I know I said that it would have been nice given my steering wheel position, but at that point I was like, I just want adaptive cruise control and steering assist. And keep me in the lanes. Like that's it. I will hold the wheel. Like you do not need to take it from me.
White knuckle.
Like just work like a basic system and I will be a happy camper. And I could not get that. And that was really irritating.
So a lot of those now you have to hold. There is a separate button, or you're holding the cruise control button for long enough, and then it switches back into like the regular mode. I've learned.
Some you can switch in and out of adaptive into regular, but it's hard to know. You're not always sure if which car has
it. Won't do it if you're like actually in cruise already.
Right.
It's confusing sometimes.
Yes,
but
exactly. So the engagement for me was challenging.
The bailout, I agree with the bailout. I mean, if I could step on it, like the bailout is just you're going along, and then it's unhappy because
something wasn't met.
I can't say this. I haven't asked for it. It could be that the speed that traffic is at that we are following is, we're doing 75 and a 65 because that's the way traffic's flowing, but that's mapped too high. That's too high for the mapping. It's not comfortable going through that curve because the curve then drops to 6. I can't tell you why, but they bail out
very quickly.
They bail out quickly. And of course you're paying attention, but like to your point, well, it's not really helping and it's actually making me more stressed. Now I got to make sure,
Yeah. You're paying extra attention, really.
Right.
Yeah.
This has the combination of looking for where your eyes and your face are, right? And
very good point.
Looking for steering wheel torque.
So driver monitor system.
Yes. So now when you're typically driving on a highway and you're on a straightaway, there's not a lot of requirement for you to torque your wheel. Most would discourage that motion.
Sure.
And so if I'm driving on a straightaway and I'm not torquing the wheel, the system now starts yelling at me, keep your hands on the wheel. Like, my hands are on the wheel. So then I'm looking down to see what the system is yelling at me for. Then it starts yelling at me because I took my attention off the road. I'm like, you can't have it both ways, car. Right? Like I get into fights with the vehicle because I'm just like, just stop. Just stop.
Right.
Let me just drive the car.
But unlike a 5 or 7-year-old, it doesn't listen when you yell at it, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And so it wasn't as stress-free as I'm sure it's intended to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to that point, a lot of the stuff is low. The screen is low. There's also a bunch of buttons in the center console that are incredibly low, a giant volume knob. I mean, I want to say that the volume knob is about the circumference of this cup top.
I appreciate that, actually.
Which at least you could grab, but there is
Dexterity.
it's big and gnarly. But you have to look down for those buttons, which then takes your attention off the driver monitor camera.
It takes like a second. It starts yelling at
and
you.
it gets mad at you.
Right.
Yeah.
A second may be too quick, but it's pretty quick.
It's quick.
Ryan, ride quality of the driving experience. Like we've gotten rid of the most of the annoying factors of it. So what about
Well,
driving
it's listen, it's not a sporty SUV by any means. It's a little roly poly. I felt like you turn into a corner and it turns in, and then you're just kind of like the steering gets kind of light and you're just kind of hanging there, and it's just it's okay, but it makes sense because it rides really well, I think.
Yep. It has adaptive suspension.
Yeah, it's pretty plush feeling, but that sometimes translates to like that loose kind of soft handling that makes it, it's not fun to drive, but it's comfortable. It's okay. If you start pushing this thing, you can feel the weight, and it has some body roll, and the steering kind of lets you figure it out on your own. But it's not terrible. It's just, it's kind of the nature of that type of a car, I think. So like, to be honest, I wasn't expecting it to be like some sharp handler. But it does ride quite well. I thought it was very compliant, and it damped well. And I mean, you hit a big pothole, it'll shake the car a little bit, but in general, it felt pretty darn good.
Emily, you were going to take it on a road trip. What were your thoughts of if it had worked for you?
If the screens work, I might reconsider. Mainly because for us, it's pretty roomy, right? So I'm in this very temporary season where my father-in-law is visiting from India. So we will literally need for 5 passengers to fit comfortably in a vehicle. So unless I'm always going to be signing out a 3-row SUV for my family, I'm doing this new test for myself, which is, can I fit between my son's high back booster and my other son's forward-facing car seat in the back seat? And so for this one, I can, and I can sit comfortably. I can buckle myself up, which is not common.
No.
Like it's middle seats. I joke all the time. They're not made for actual humans. I don't quite know who they're made for. Sometimes I feel like I can barely belt one thigh in. I don't know who's supposed to sit there. So I found that this was pretty comfortable. Also a good viewing spot of the IMAX.
True.
So, that rear center seat. And you have good legroom, even in the back row. You have good legroom. Ours has those heated second row outboards, which I remember even from when we had the Corsair a few years ago.
Right.
That also had it. And I would sit in the back seat with the baby, and so that was pretty nice for me.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
On a long drive.
That's good info though, because that car isn't that big in general. Like when you look, it's not a large SUV. So the fact that you can fit that, it's pretty comfortable in there.
Yeah.
That's good info. Yeah.
It is a roomy second row.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And well contoured, good
it's
seating
comfortable.
position
It is
overall.
comfortable.
So yeah. One of the interesting things we did touch on, as comfort goes, the top level one has the 24-way seats. This is the one we rented from Ford, or from Lincoln, but Ford. What we do with some of the cars, for those who don't know, if we bring in a press car early before the car goes on sale or the vehicle goes on sale. So we do pay the auto manufacturer a fee. So we the ability to try it out before we buy our own. What do you think of these seats? Because one of the big things about them is that you could individually adjust the bottom cushion length. Now, some cars have just the front of the bottom cushion. You could extend it out. You could tilt it up and down. You could extend it out. You could, for more thigh support. This one you could do it individually.
Yeah.
Ryan, we know you're long of leg, so you go first.
I actually appreciate the thigh extenders on any seat, really.
Yeah.
24 ways. I don't think my body moves 24 ways personally, but the separate thigh thing doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I don't understand why you would ever do that. I'm kind of like a symmetry guy. Like I like things to be kind of like the same, like your pedals and everything. I don't know why maybe on a really long trip you would want to extend one, or if you have some sort of a disability or you need to adjust. I guess. But I just feel like that's such a small population or thing that it's just interesting. And there's one more thing to break, because now you have two individual things moving mechanically. The seats, I thought they were comfortable in general. I was pleased with both ours and the rented one. But 24-way adjustable seat is it's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
There is. Emily?
I didn't get to try the 24-way. I can see how, if we were doing a long drive and I was the one doing the driving, that like as my leg is maybe getting more fatigued, I might want to extend the thigh support on that one leg so that it's like just getting a little bit more support and it's not getting as tired.
Yeah.
The right leg, because it's doing a little more work.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one, you're just kind of hanging out for a trip.
Well, your other leg, you can, if it's starting to cramp or something, your left leg, you can always bend it, or you can stretch it back and forth and move it around a little bit.
I just give it a couple slaps and just keep on going.
Get the percussion massager out while you're driving. No, it is. It's it's one of those things where it's really their thing. I haven't encountered another car that has it, so it kind of makes me wonder. I too found these seats much better. I did not like these back when we tested the Lincoln Continental and they had it. A lot of times. And some people did say they sat on those seats. Some of the comments.
These are softer.
They were firm in the 24 ways. The ones that we have, the more normal seats, the standard seats. People found them a little more comfortable. The testers, who are driving it. So I think for a $10,000 option to get those seats, it's overpriced. I don't see it as
I could never see paying that for that extra.
Yeah, you get the basic pack. You get the basic car. You get the Reserve 2 package that we have, and then I think this is Reserve 3, and it's a total of $10,000, and that's a lot of money.
I mean, people are definitely. I feel like with the current culture, right, we want to be able to customize everything, and Lincoln's like, we'll let you do that, right? And for the person who does want to drop the extra 10 grand, they spend a lot of time in their vehicle. This is like their treat themselves vehicle, right? If you want the ability to really customize your driving position so that it is comfortable for you in every which way, 24 different ways, then maybe this is the thing for you. It could be for a myriad of things. It could be because of like health issues. Maybe you have a bad back, or
correct,
like you need better circulation or something. Anything really.
Very, very good point.
But I mean, it's interesting that they are providing that if you want it. Again, not for cheap.
Right. You pay to play.
You might need to sell your firstborn to get it, but.
Sure.
I think they are sort of maybe catering, though, like the screens. A lot of the things I see in the new cars that I don't necessarily always love because I'm just like, I just want things to be the way my brain knows how to find them, right? But it is sort of catering to that like customizable culture. Ding, ding, ding.
Well,
what
so
you're very excited right now.
No, because you bring up the final point I want to make about the vehicle before we wrap it up. It has an element to me of, well, Tesla does it, so the air vents.
Oh. You got to it. Before me.
Quick poll. Were any of you able to adjust your air vents?
I just opened the windows. I was livid.
I would.
If I didn't have pollen
Why are we doing
allergies,
that? Why
I
are we
would
doing
have.
that? That's so insane.
So the air vents are like Tesla, like Rivian. I believe like Lucid does. I haven't been in Lucid in a while, so I apologize.
neither.
I don't remember.
But either way, yeah.
Everything's adjusted through the screen.
No.
You adjust the flow, the direction.
Not if your screen doesn't work.
Well, so there's another reason of this whole everything screen is great because you could customize the software, except when the software doesn't work. It's just, look, you still have motors behind actuating, directing. I mean, now instead of having, I understand that it could be a parts price saving. Oh, okay. Instead of having a slider that could break, or we have to form all these individual parts, it's just vents in the back with motors. But oh my gosh, the attention. I mean, yes, you could put it on auto, set it and forget it, and hope it's doing what you want. But a lot of times you want to cool yourself off because it's super hot. You want to blow the hot or cold air. I find it awful, but tell me, in this world of customization, Emily, what do you think?
So I never figured out how to move the vents.
Well, you had the limited time with the screen working.
I did have limited time with the screen. But I
It wasn't working for you.
I tried really hard to manually adjust them, and I just could not quite figure it out. I almost got my finger stuck in the vent trying to like. I was like
I'll do it myself. It's biting.
you know how some of them though you kind of have to really grab like the grill and like adjust it. So I was like, okay, maybe it's one of those, right? And this is the problem with us like testing so many different cars. I'm like, I'm gonna try it all. I'm gonna swipe at it. I'm going to do whatever in the world it is that I think is supposed to adjust it. It never really got adjusted. And so the vents were like blowing at my elbows and torso the whole time.
Well, they are kind of low too. They're very low in the dash to start.
Yeah. So it wasn't optimal. I would have preferred to have a physical button to actually adjust my vents and the directions, because it's way easier than trying to like find it in the menu and then make the adjustment again. And if you are using the BlueCruise, you would never get to, because your eyes would be off the road for too long. I mean, anyways, your eyes need to be on the road. So which is another reason why, if it's there in your periphery and it's easy enough for you to do manually, you can maintain the focus that you need.
So don't reinvent the steering wheel and don't reinvent the air vents. Is this
or the gear shift?
The piano?
I don't know if it's I mean, there's other reasons, I'm sure, but like if they're doing that to add luxury to a vehicle, like that doesn't add luxury to a vehicle for me. Like
the stress level.
It just doesn't. Like I don't. That doesn't impress me that it does that like through a screen. Like just give me a regular vent. And some do it really nicely. The knob feels real nice and it's easy to and like that you can have it aiming at you or away from you. Done. Right.
Yeah.
Don't reinvent the air vents. Okay.
And like you said, the gear selector are buttons across the center dash below the screen that you do need to. I mean, it's annoying on a 3-point turn, backing out of your driveway or parking space. You're not operating it while you're driving, but it still is just another. Yeah, that's Lincoln's thing, and it's not a great thing.
To me, it feels like there are a few standard things, right? The adjustments that you always have to make.
Yep.
Volume, climate, gears.
Yeah.
Right? Turn signals, wipers, headlights. The things that everybody has to do and everybody has to do frequently should stay the same. They should stay intuitive. They should stay easily accessible. I feel like such a nut when I get into some of these new cars and I'm like, how do I do it? And I just sit there and stare at it for a few minutes being like, I am an engineer. I can do hard things, but I can't turn this one on. Why?
It is that balance of how often do we drive it versus we drive so many. At some point, you can make the decision pretty quickly. This is not optimal. But, to that point, one of the things that a number of our experts commented on in the logbook is that steering, the handling, the ride, even some of the interior features. It feels like it was designed for other markets. I mean, this is built in China and exported to the United States, this vehicle. And it could be that it's not really necessarily designed first and foremost for the American consumer. It could be that the ride quality just has to be soft and floaty. It doesn't matter how sharp the handling is because that's not important for the key market. And now, the US is not necessarily always the key market for every vehicle. Look, German vehicles, they've always emphasized for years they were not 0 to 60 vehicles necessarily. They were top speed. Yep. And you'd say, why is first gear so short? Well, that's the German market. So it is interesting to see this Lincoln brand vehicle that, maybe Lincoln wants us to adapt to that instead of having it be key for us and everyone else adapt. Right. Overall, it's got some massive problem areas, I think. It's a good vehicle, but that's why we're testing it. So there'll be more on consumerreports.org as the Lincoln Nautilus, goes through our testing program. Yeah. So that'll bring us to our question and answer portion of the episode. As always, send your short video clips or text questions to talkingcars@icloud.com. And we love the video ones, so please send them on so we can get some on the show. Our first question comes from Ed from Canada, who says, in episode 444, one of your viewers asked where the vans are going, but that had me wondering, what about wagons? As the owner of 2 Volvo wagons and a number of SUVs of various sizes over the years, there is no question in my mind that wagons are better. They drive better, they're more comfortable, they are lighter, more fuel efficient, easier to load, and often have similar cargo capacity. That said, I know my 2024 Volvo V90 is the last of its kind, and there are oh so few wagons left in North America. Am I alone here? Help save the wagons! ! Ryan, we're going to go to you first.
Okay. Yeah. I like where he's at. I love a good wagon myself. It's a dying thing. It's a niche market now. And I blame it on basically the height of small SUVs. Wagons are basically, it's a car with a longer back, so you can put stuff in it like an SUV, but it handles like a car still. Sporty, good looking, you can get all-wheel drive, they do everything, but they're low to the ground. And I know many, many, many people who have gone from a car, sedan, to a little SUV, and they will never go back because there's a sense of security when you sit up a little higher. The cars on the road today are generally bigger than they used to be. Yep. And it's a safety thing. Not necessarily you are safer, but it feels safer, I think. And I think people aren't always enthusiasts in terms of, they're not always enthusiasts in the sense that they need a sporty car, right? I would like, in an ideal world with endless money, I would have a sports car and then I would have an SUV, 2 separate things. So they each do what they're supposed to do specifically, right? If you can't, you have a wagon, and the wagon's great because it handles and does all that stuff. But Ed and I and whoever else we're a few people, right? Yep. A good friend of mine just bought a really nice Volvo wagon. And it's a beautiful car. That's awesome. But it's like the only one I think I've ever seen in the state of Connecticut, right? Right. You ride bikes with him, my buddy Kyle.
Oh yeah, I know Kyle. Yes.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
He got rid of an Audi wagon.
He got rid of an Audi wagon, a manual wagon, right? So, yes. And he was calling me like, "What do I get? What do I get?" And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you, bud." And so he ended up with that car. It's a beautiful car, but it's rare. You don't see a lot of these things, and most people, I think, just want to sit higher. They don't want to go back down in access. Yeah. If you as we get a little older, access is a huge thing. I'm sad to see it happen too, but that just seems to be what it is. I think it's that simple. It's just a height thing.
Yeah. Emily.
So I don't have a great affinity for wagons per se. I feel like most people
this is like point counterpoint. This is like a political show here. Yeah.
I feel like from a lot of people who do though, it's all about like nostalgia, right? They grew up maybe with a station wagon or something like that. For me, the compromise is like the hatch. Mm-hmm. So like maybe it's not a true hatch, but like I love our Kia Niro. For me, they do all those things. They're not quite as big as the SUVs. They're not quite as slow as the sedans. They have decent cargo space, especially the new generation, right? They've really extended that wheelbase, I believe. And so like you have more interior room, you have more cargo room. They're easy to drive. They come with standard safety. Like they do all the things for me. Mm-hmm. And they kind of solve that like sort of middle of the road for access. Cause where, it's not so much about elderly for me. It's, my husband has had multiple knee injuries. Mm-hmm. And so like when it's too low to the ground, it's more difficult for him. When it's too high, it's also too difficult, right? So I do kind of need middle of the road, and things like those hatches work for us. Especially now also that my son is forward facing. And so like those rear facing car seats are not taking as much room in the car.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But that's sort of my compromise, is like, if that's still the style that you're really looking for, it's not a traditional wagon, but it might be sort of the thing that comes closest to what's dear to your heart.
I agree. I looked at like wagons were the original SUVs to sedans. You had sedans and wagons, and now you have SUVs replacing wagons, because in general, they generally, you can make the argument like wagons are almost as good or blah, blah. In some cases, yes, they generally get better fuel economy than SUVs. But in most other ways, an SUV bests a wagon in that cargo capacity. I mean, I look back when we tested the 2013 Audi Allroad. So it's the A4 based Allroad, and the Q5, which is the similar sized SUV. Allroad, 28.5 cubic feet of cargo. Q5, 32 even on the nose cubic feet of cargo. Even Volvo's data that, so it's their measurements, the XC60, 63.3 cubic feet of cargo available. The V60 wagon, 60.5. I mean, like the numbers that even the XC90, it's even more. 85.7 cubic feet of cargo space in the XC90, the V90 up to 69 cubic feet.
Right.
Like the mileage per gallon is 3 to 4
Right.
mile per gallon difference according to their numbers again.
Right.
Yeah, the biggest thing is again, maybe 0 to 60 is a half second quicker for the wagon. The SUV certainly weighs more, but
back to the cargo for 1 second.
Yeah.
Also, it's not here; it's up here.
Easier.
It's more of a normal height.
Yeah, exactly.
thing,
It is
too.
easier to load
a
many
little bit
things
easier,
except dropping down.
Right.
So it is.
Ed, I would happily bend over to put something in a wagon as well, but they are dying. I apologize.
Yep. So I think Save the Wagons and Save the Manuals need to team up. Maybe you could save the manual wagons and you could have like a big focus group.
A Venn diagram.
Exactly. Put them in the center. So our other question comes from Alexandra from San Diego, California. It says, I've been listening to your podcast a ton as I try to figure out my next vehicle. My two main priorities feel conflicting, but I know you'll have an answer. That's stress. I want a vehicle I can take camping comfortably. All-wheel drive is probably not 100% necessary, but a bit of extra ground clearance and the ability to lay the seats flat would be really nice. I also care about my environmental impact, and therefore getting an ICE, an internal combustion engine, vehicle feels a bit painful. At the same time, an EV for long road trips into the mountains doesn't seem practical. Want to spend less than $30,000. Any suggestions? Emily, we're going to tee this up to you first.
So, just as a heads up, Alexandra, we have this great buying guide on our hybrids and EVs hub on consumerreports.org, which really does kind of help you tease out exactly what you're asking for. Based off of what she gave us, I really think that she'd be an ideal candidate for like a plug-in hybrid. Like for her day-to-day stuff that's, nearby, which again, I'm making a large assumption that things are local for her.
Sure.
She would have EV range, right? And then she could charge overnight. When she needs to do her road trips, she has the ability to fuel up a regular gas tank and go farther. It feels like that might be the best compromise. The only challenge there is they're kind of out of her price range.
Yeah, sure. I was thinking the same thing. They're just because they're newer kind of to the market, and I was looking in the same place, but I didn't see anything quite yet used.
Compromise that I came up with, which is probably not ideal, but a used like 2021 Toyota RAV4 Prime.
Okay. So
she still gets the EV side of it. It's a plug-in, right? It has all-wheel drive. We were not testing EV range yet with the 21s, but based off of the 24, it gets like 42 miles of EV range.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You can fold down the seats. You get pretty decent. It's Joe Veslak approved for for camping and cargo space, at least the RAV4, which is very similar to. It does have like less cargo space than some of its competitors, like the Tucson or the Sportage plug-in hybrids, but those are certainly options as well. But I think that could do it if she's willing to go used.
Sure,
she could do something like a plug-in hybrid.
Good choice. Ryan, did you?
Yeah, I'm bad at this. But for 30 grand nowadays, unfortunately, that's, you're looking at something used probably. And I definitely wouldn't go with an EV for what she's, what she said. You want that mobility. A plug-in makes sense, but I didn't see anything that was in that range. But I would just get a used RAV4 hybrid.
Yep.
You can't go wrong. It would be all-wheel drive, and it's efficient, and they're reliable, and they're just easy to, good. It's kind of a rugged car you can take camping and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, they did have some versions geared for that, for outdoorsy world versus supermarket
I think
world.
it has enough clearance.
Yeah,
that.
so that's my practical answer.
I went with the used Subaru Crosstrek hybrid. So you could find a 2020 or 2021 in the high $20,000 range. According to autotrader.com, I just did a quick search in 500-mile range. Radius, excuse me. It's not a great plug-in hybrid in that you got such significant mileage improvement with running on electric, or it's like, but it gives you the ground clearance. It has the ruggedness in that respect. You can drive it on electricity, so if you want to drive around town, you get like a 18 to 20 mile range of that.
Yes.
But again, it's a good around town, but you're not stuck stranded anywhere, like her concern about EVs. But that was, for me, it was the $30,000 mark. So that's what came to mind.
That's why
it's a tough
did
market
the same
right
thing.
now.
I searched like our used car marketplace on CRO and found one Toyota RAV4 Prime in like a 500-mile radius.
Yeah.
So there is one out there, and it's priced exactly at $30,000.
You better jump on that quick. Yeah.
So get that one.
It's a tough thing. I mean, the used car market is improved, just like the new car market. There's more vehicles out there, but prices are firm. And then since plug-in hybrids are now sort of the buzzword, people went from hybrid straight to EV, and plug-ins are now going like, well, what about us? They are popular, and
they make sense.
Prices are firm.
Yeah.
So
the only thing with that Crosstrek hybrid is we had one here a few years ago, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing that I didn't love about it was I felt like you lost so much of the cargo space.
It was.
That's an excellent point. Yes.
That battery.
Yep.
And because I was thinking the same thing, I'm like, what are the other plugins that we had in previous years, so that she could, look at the used car market, and that was the pitfall for that one with me. I think the Prime does a little bit better with where they store that battery, so it doesn't impede on your cargo space as much.
100%.
But that was my only.
You have to. Yeah, you do. You have to fold the seats. Fortunately, it's not. I was thinking that the roof rack is low enough because it's raised. It's not SUV that you could do a roof box or something like that and not have to really get like a step stool to get to it or something like that. If you're shorter, but it is, and that's an excellent point that you brought up, that Subaru compromised the battery, this cargo space with that battery.
Yeah.
And we don't see another one right now from them. So maybe there's a reason. So, Alexandra, let us know what you choose. It would be interesting to find out, particularly given the price point. It would be interesting to see what you chose. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for a very good conversation. As always, please send your comments, your questions, your ideas, talkingcars at iCloud.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.